What's up guys, Garrett with SelfTaughtDev. Today we are going over some VS Code tips and tricks to make you a more efficient and effective developer. Now, some of this you might know already, some of it might be kind of basic, but my goal is for you to get at least 1, 2, maybe 3 little gold nuggets that you can throw in your developer workflow to be more effective. So first up, we've got some general setup of VS Code stuff. Now, the minimap over here, this is kind of opinionated, so some of this stuff, maybe try it for a few days. If you don't like it, throw it back on, but give it a shot, see how it feels. I propose that you don't actually use the minimap. If you do, it's mostly just for scrolling and using a giant scroll bar. If you use it for scrolling, that's fine, keep it. I prefer to turn this off and just free up the little bit of screen real estate here. If there's errors in your code like that, you can see it clearly on the sidebar over here. That red little dot, so you can quickly go to it. If there's one down here, like let's say we broke this JSX, then we can see that there's 2 errors down here in our sidebar. We can quickly just jump to that. So you don't actually need the minimap. To turn it off, we're gonna press Control or Command, Shift and P, and then type toggle minimap, and it should come up here first, and we'll just press enter or click on that, and that will turn off the minimap. Now that was the command palette, Control or Command, Shift and P. Anytime I say Control, if you're on a Mac, just think Command, because I have Windows. But yeah, this is the command palette, lets you do pretty much anything you want in VS Code quickly and easily. So now that we've got the minimap off, we are going to undo the changes in here, remove those breaking things. There we go. Second thing, I would like to propose to you that the sidebar here is on the wrong side in VS Code. It should be on the right side here. How do we switch it? Press Control or Command, Shift and P to open the command palette again. And then we're going to toggle primary sidebar position, and then that moves it to the right side. Now, if you've never had it on the right side before, this immediately is gonna feel very wrong and weird and like it should not be over here, but let me show you why it should be on the right side. When you're opening and closing the sidebar, what's happening? Everything on your screen shifts. When it's on the right side here, all that changes is the sidebar. Your code stays in the same place, and it helps your brain. You don't have to move your eyes back and forth to change your focus so much. So it's just a little thing you can do to help your brain out. Anything that changes the width of the screen, in my opinion, should be on the right side to prevent everything changing on the screen. Third thing I like to do is turn off this status bar. I find that there's not really anything I actually need down here. I mean, maybe the branch you're on, but if you just open your terminal, you can see what branch you're on. So I don't really see the point in having it down here. So I like to turn this off. If you do want to keep it and you want to reduce the amount of stuff down here, the amount of things getting blasted to your brain, you can just right click things and click hide to easily hide stuff and clean this up. If there's a lot of junk down there you don't want to see, but you do want to keep this on it. If you do want to hide it, like I do, just open the command palette. We're going to toggle status bar visibility, and then that gets rid of that and just cleans up your work environment a little bit more. Now let's get into a few hotkeys. Hopefully you already know the Control Z, Control X, Control C, Control V for copy, cut, paste, undo, and redo. We'll redo is Control or Command, Shift and Z. But anyway, we're gonna get into some of the more in-depth ones specific to VS Code. We already talked about the command palette with Control or Command, Shift and P. If you backspace and get rid of that little angle bracket, this becomes the File Explorer. You can also open this by just pressing Control or Command P. And then you can, depending on how big your project is, you might want to be able to just type in a file name and quickly navigate to that file. I know at work we have a massive mono repo and it's very hard to find things, so I end up using the File Explorer a lot. Just type in whatever I'm looking for, like app.tsx, and press enter, and it would immediately open that file. I've already got it opened here, so nothing changed. Let's just open the jest config here, and it immediately switches to that file. If it was closed, it would bring it open for us too. So that's how to quickly find files. Of course, you can always just click up here and do it the same way, but anything you can do to reduce the amount of times you have to move your hand from your keyboard to your mouse and back and forth is gonna speed you up as a developer. Along with that, opening and closing the sidebar, I realized I didn't give you the hotkeys for that, so you could have been clicking this, or you could press Control or Command and the letter B, bravo, and that quickly opens and closes this. What about the terminal? Control or Command, and then backtick. quickly opens your terminal. Now, by default, this is in a little pop-up bar down here on the bottom, like that. I find it more, to me, it makes more sense to have it in the sidebar over here, because if, depending on what's going on in your terminal, you might need to scroll up or down to see more information like this, and having to drag the little pop-up on the bottom up so you can see more. It just makes more sense for me, to me at least, to have it over here. All you have to do that is click terminal down here and drag it to the sidebar, and that'll move it over to the sidebar for you. One that's a little bit more basic is the find. So if you press Control F, you can do a local search for things in your file, depending on how big your file is. Mine's only 50 lines, so I wouldn't really need to do this a whole lot. But let's say you've got maybe something that's like 1,000 lines. It's kind of big for a file, but let's say you're working on something that big and you need to quickly find something. You could search for num of game guesses, and you can see everywhere that num of game guesses is. If you need to replace that word, you can open this up and just replace it with whatever you need to replace it with here. Be careful though, because as you can see, it's getting num of game guesses and num of game guesses here, but that's part of another variable name. So just be careful when you're doing that. You can replace one at a time. And then if we get to one we need to skip like this, we can just press the down arrow to find the next match until we get to one we do want to replace again. Now I'm going to undo that. Don't actually want to rename those, but that is how you do it locally in a file. If you need to do it globally, Control Shift F allows you to search globally in your file. Whatever you have highlighted when you press that is what's going to be searched. So you might have seen it had the whole thing here. Let's say we want to search just for game over. We can press Control Shift F with that highlighted, and then it will search for that globally across our code base. Now I've got the match casing turned on, so that would match the casing. If we turn this off, we might get a few more. It doesn't look like it, but if you're trying to match casing, you can do that. If you need to match the exact word, like let's say we need to find everywhere that res is used. And so we've got a lot of matches in the package lock here. We don't really care about that. So let's match the whole word, and then we can see we only get the expected responses for that. So quick and easy way to search through your code base. Another quick little thing to note is moving lines easily. So let's say we actually just want this to return false for some reason. We could highlight that, copy it, move up here, paste it, or we could just highlight this line or click in the line, hold down Alt or Option and press up, and then we can easily move that line wherever we need it to be in our code. So just a quicker way to move lines. If you don't know about multi-select, you can press Alt and click in multiple places, and then you've got cursors and you can start typing in multiple places. This is great if you have a lot of stuff that you need to change at once. You can just highlight all of the lines you need to change, or put your cursor on all of the lines that you need to change and quickly adjust those. Almost through with all the hotkeys here. Another one you need to know is code folding. You can do this without the hotkey by pressing the little arrow over here. Let's say you're debugging something and you know it's not in the JSX part of this code. It's going to be in one of the functions up here. So you don't want to see this. We can just fold this by pressing the arrow, or the hotkeys for this are Control, Shift, and then the left angle bracket. And then if you want to open it back up, it's the right angle bracket. And this is not actually changing any of your code. This is purely a UI change. If we look in the get changes here, or the get stuff here, all we can see is the removed console log. The code is not actually adjusted in any way, purely visual. But now you have a lot less stuff to focus on, and you can focus on where you know the bug is. Now, next thing we're going to talk about is web developers. They're in a weird position where they write their code in one place and then debug it in another. Depending on what browser you use, you might be debugging in Chrome, you might be debugging in Firefox or Edge. Usually you're gonna have console logs like this. If you are getting more into it, you can use breakpoints, which are a much better way to debug your code, because you can see what's going on in real time. You can basically, let me open up an inspector here. If we go to sources, you could put a breakpoint here, and then when your script is running, when it gets here, it'll pause, and you can see what's going on this specific line. If there's variables, you could hover over the variable to see what the variable is. If you don't know how to use Chrome's inspector with breakpoints, definitely recommend checking that out. or just using VS Code's breakpoint ability. So let's say we were like, all right, what's this word after this API request is fulfilled? We can just click on the side here to add a breakpoint. Now, how do we get this to trigger? The code's not actually running in VS Code, it's running in the browser. So what we're gonna go to is run and debug code over here. You have this here. What we're gonna click on is run and debug. And then we want to debug the front end in Chrome. So we're gonna make a web app Chrome. And then it gets this launch.json file for us. The name here is what's going to show up here. So feel free to change that, keep it the same, up to you. But this port does need to be whatever the port that your project is running on is. Mine is 4200 because this is an NX app. So I'm gonna change it to that. And then I also need to point this to the directory that my app is running in. So this, by default, this is the workspace folder. So this is like the root. So we need to go into apps /nx-wordle. Oop. Copilot trying to autocomplete stuff incorrectly for me. And then we'll save that. And now this is going to use this, and it's going to use our code in NX-wordle. Now I've already got my app spun up and running. So if you don't have your app up and running, just do npm run start or whatever command starts your app. Again, make sure this is on the port that your app will run in, and then make sure this web root is the folder that your app is located in. We'll go back to run and debug. And then once your app is running, we'll press play. And this is going to launch VS Code's own instance of Chrome. And then you should be able to see whatever your project is in this instance of Chrome. Now you can see that this has a pause here. We're going to go make sure we've got our breakpoint added. We're going to refresh this one more time. And my breakpoint is not working. Why are you not happy? I forgot the slash here, that's why. So we're gonna close that, press play again to launch this correctly. And then you'll know it's connected when, if you have a breakpoint, it should be red. It might not be triggered, but it should at least be red to indicate, hey, this is part of the active running code. As you can see though, we've got one on line 16, because let's say we're debugging something and we want to see what the word that comes back from this API request is. We can just hover over this and we can see that the word is wheeled. If we dig into this object, we can see the exact word. If we're hovering over this part, we can see the object that comes back. And then if we hover over previous variables, we can see stuff there as well. So this makes it a lot easier to debug code versus having to do console log, and you console log whatever you want to see. Go to Chrome's inspector. Can I not open this? Oh, because it's paused. We need to, let's just turn off that for now. Well, that closed the browser, but you'd have to open up the browser's inspector, go to the console, see what the console is there. See what the console log is there. It's just a lot more convenient and easy to be able to see your code being processed in real time, hover over the word, and see what the variable is actually referencing or defines. So another great little tip. Last thing I'm going to leave you with is a few plugins or extensions that I think you should check out. Where are the extensions? There we go. So these squares right here. Which ones do I think you should check out? The most recent one I found is one for TypeScript. It is pretty TypeScript errors. Now, if you've ever had a TypeScript error before, they're kind of a pain to look at. What this does is formats them in a much nicer version, so you can easily see, okay, this object is missing this property. Makes it a lot easier to figure out the TypeScript errors instead of having something that's just a JSON stringified thing like this. So definitely recommend pretty TypeScript errors. Another one was import cost. I like this one. It shows you how big whatever you're importing is going to be. So just importing use effect and use state from React is 4.2K. If I gzip it, it's 1.8. And then if you were importing anything else, it would show how big that is. This can be helpful when you're working on performance with your app. Another one you should definitely check out if you haven't already is GitHub Copilot. I think they have a free 7-day trial, but it is great at guessing what you're going to type. Sometimes, as you saw in here, it's not 100% correct. But oftentimes I will write the function declaration, like just the name of the function and the variables that I need to go in it, and it can guess what I want that function to do. And all I have to do is press tab to autocomplete the function, and then just double check to make sure GitHub Copilot got it right and that it works correctly. But definitely something I would recommend trying out. Again, you do get a 7-day free trial. After that, I think it's like $10 a day, or not a day, sorry, $10 a month, but not too bad. And I think the last one is going to be Git history. This shows you, if you click on a file, you can see who made the last change to that line in Git. But what I really like about it is being able to see the previous commit. So if you hover over this left angle bracket here, you can open this with the previous revisions and see what this file looked like before. Now, before I hadn't actually committed this file before, so there's nothing here. Before the previous commit, this file didn't exist. I don't know if any of these files existed before actually, so this might not be the best project to demo that in, but that is a great asset to use when you're debugging code and you're like, okay, what was this before? You can see what the PR name was or what the ticket was for, depending on where you work. And it's pretty helpful if you're trying to decide, can I just undo this? Why was this change necessary? Helps digging into that and figuring out why changes occurred. But yeah, that is my little spiel on VS Code productivity tips for you. If you have any questions or concerns, leave them down in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up if this video helps you out or if you learned something new from it. If you want to come join the SelfTaughtDev subreddit, it is linked down in the description. Got a little community there where you can ask questions. Also, my Discord community is still going. Link to that is in the description as well if you want to come talk tech and hang out with me and other developers in there. If you want my resume template, the one I used to get my first developer job, I have a link to where you can get that in the description as well. And then I think that's about it for this one. Hit subscribe so you can stay up to date on the cool stuff I'm putting out, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.